Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to theprobateagent.com. My name's Anthony Nitz. In our last episode, we talked about the importance of specialization, why you need to specialize, and why probate's one of the best specialties that you can have in this industry. And today we're going to talk about probably what I consider low-hanging fruit in the probate arena. So the big question is this: how are ordinary agents just like us supposed to stand out in the overly crowded real estate space while living a great lifestyle without having to go broke or radically change what we're already doing? Probate is the answer, and this series will show you how. I'm Anthony Nitz, and welcome to the Probate Agent. Okay, so one of the things that I discovered when I started doing probates was obviously, you're trying to reach out to personal representatives, you're trying to reach out to attorneys, you start to figure out you got to reach out to moving coordinators, and there's a couple other handful of people that you can reach out to. And one of the things that I got the best response from, as far as a quick response, okay, the others, they respond when you do it the right way. They just seem to take a little bit longer. But the ones that I get the quickest response from was the out of area heirs or personal representatives, right? And, usually because a couple of things. Number one, they're out of the area. They're going, oh man, I gotta, if they gotta drive more than 3 hours to get here, it's, wow, what a big pain that is all of a sudden, even though it's something that they're probably going to benefit from as far as an inheritance type of situation. But, they got life. They got kids to go to soccer games. They got work. They got, a house to clean and maintain. They've got, other activities and parties to go to, or whatever it is they want to do. Or they just want to stay at home and relax, not go spend hours traveling, whether they're driving or sometimes having to fly into the area. We've had PRs, fly in from out of state to come and deal with this estate, right? And it can be really, really overwhelming. And so one of the ways that I would reach out to them was that I let them know. First of all, I would send them a letter. I would follow the same formula. It would be in a package that had something else in it. It made it lumpy, right? It made it so that they had to open it, because I know other people were sending them stuff too, right? But I put, different odd things in there just to make it feel like this is different, because let me back up a little bit on this. When some of my clients, I'd ask them, I'd say, hey, can you save the stuff that other people send you? I want to see it. I want to see what the competition's doing, right? And that's not a bad thing to ask your clients to do, whether you're doing probate or not. But one of the things that I saw was, first of all, they got 1,000 letters in a number 10 envelope with their name, their name and address, printed with a typewriter, or not typewriter, but on a printer, typewriter. Where'd that come from? And then it would have the real estate company brand or logo in the upper left-hand corner with the return address, and or the investor company logo in the upper left-hand corner. And the thing that I found very interesting was that those were never, ever opened. They would hand me a pile. I literally had somebody hand me a pile that had like 82 letters in it. The ones that were number 10 envelopes, had the company logo and name in the upper left-hand corner, none of them were opened, right? And then you had a different category, which was we'll just call it a package, right? So sometimes it would include like a binder or just a folder of some kind that would have, a bunch of printed material in it, a presentation of sorts. And sometimes those were open. But I can tell you this, if it was in, like a nice printed folder, your company folder that has the pouches on both sides, with a little cutout you can stick your business cards in. It's like only sometimes, once in a while, those would get open. And usually it was probably the first one that showed up. Gee, what's this? They open up and they go, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. And all of a sudden they get 13 more of those. They go, oh, I already know what it is. I'm not going to open it up. And so they do that. They'll open those. And then sometimes you'll have ones that actually have like binders in them, and kind of the same thing. It was like, okay, I know what that is. They open one, maybe two, and then they just don't open them anymore. Sometimes some guy, like a few people actually would like send DVDs and things like that. And again, they would open it, but it just, they wouldn't do anything with it because, you got to realize these people are overwhelmed. They're literally overwhelmed all of a sudden with the responsibility of this property. And all of a sudden with the influx of interest in them in the form of mail, going to them, all of a sudden their phone's blowing up, right? People using skip tracers to go look up their cell phone number and, and call them and bug them and whatnot. And so what I did, that almost always got my package open was I would send, lumpy mail. And I would figure out from the post office, if I was concerned with postage at the time, because at one time we were sending out like a lot. I'm like, holy smokes, I'm spending, $1,000 a month just on postage for these packages. But it was worth it. It was very well worth it. But I would go to the post office and I go, okay, so for a priority mail, right? Whichever, I don't even remember how much those are right now, but a priority mail envelope with, what's the maximum thickness that it can be to still fit into the original priority mail, price, right? Without having an extra cost added to it. And I would try and find something that would fit into that. But if it wasn't lumpy enough, right? If it wasn't lumpy enough, then I wouldn't even send it without putting something else in there. It had to be one of those things that as somebody grabbed the package, they literally, you've done this before. You got a package and you feel there's something in there. So you feel it. You have to, you sit there and you press on the package and you go, what is that? What's in this package? That's interesting. Just having a thick folder or having additional, printed material in there isn't enough to get anybody excited. So some of the things that I would do is I would include, like in one package, I thought it was pretty funny. We would include marbles. Take 2 or 3 marbles and stick it in there, right? I mean, it is like one of those things. Like, what the heck is this? Why it feels like marbles? Why are there marbles in here? And it got opened. I mean, I would say every single time. I'm sure there's maybe a handful of people who didn't open it, but it got open a lot. Sometimes I would put coins in there, pennies and nickels and stuff like that. And I don't mean like 2 or 3. I'd put like 10 of them in there. And the reason I do it is because as they're carrying the package to the trash and they hear a rattling around in there, they go, oh, what's that? Now, that wasn't as lumpy, but it definitely, but it made things stick out. I found a place that was selling, let me go back on the marbles. I would, of course, put a big insert into the envelope that said, you must be losing your marbles with this probate, so I sent you a few extra. Okay. And part of the goal is to make them smile, right? I would send them the coins. I would say if I had a nickel for every time somebody contacted me and said that they were an expert in probate and could make the transition smooth, you could at least buy a decent lunch. And, they got a kick out of that. One other time, like I said, I found a place where I think it was like a total closeout thing, and it was these digital watches that I think I got them for like 80 cents a piece. And if you're trying to find stuff that you can put into envelopes and things like that, go on to Alibaba.com. Okay, go to Alibaba.com and just find oddball stuff. Right? I did one with socks. I sent them socks. I said, this probate thing is a hassle. I don't remember the exact message. The probate thing is really a hassle, but with what we're going to show you, it's going to blow your socks off. So we sent you another pair. So they're feeling this envelope, and it's soft and fluffy, and they're like, "What the heck is in here?" It's not paper. It's not just paper. Sometimes I would get a box. I would take boxes, like a couple things. Number one, they have at the post office, you can get the free priority mailboxes. So if I was doing locally, so like I have a guy who goes out and he will, run errands and do all this stuff and put up signs and things like that. And if you don't have somebody like that, get with 4 or 5 other agents and say, hey, let's pay this guy, whatever it is, so that he'll go out and put our open house signs up, so that he'll go out and deliver these packages to probates, to, whatever other niche you're trying to target. Okay. And collaborate and pay them. But anyways, so if it was local, if the PRs were local, I would go to the post office and I would get the priority mail boxes, not the envelopes necessarily, but the boxes, because those were great. Because when you pick that up, if you had loose change or marbles or something like that in it, oh, they're banging all over in the place in there, right? But what I would have them do, or what I would have him do, is I would have him fill out the label that goes on the box, just as if it was being sent from the post office. Okay, so it would, we would have the labels. They have those plastic sheet or plastic little envelope things that you stick the shipping label in. I know a lot of times now they print most of them, but I still, when I can, I'll find those plastic envelopes and create a label. Okay, even if I have to do it in Microsoft Word, so that it looks like, hey, this is a real package that was sent by the post office to me. It's priority mail, and boy, it's got something rattling in there. Okay, so I'd have him drive around, and every week when I got my probate notices, the list, they would just drive around and drop those off at the property. And if we were able to get personal representative information, and if they were local, we'd drop it off on their porch as well. Okay, we didn't want to wait till they showed up to their property, because when they did, there was 40 other packages sitting there from other real estate agents and investors. Okay, now the other reason why I did the labels too was because I've caught investors doing this. I've caught agents doing this, where you go and you have your company, envelope that has, your company logo and name in the upper left-hand corner. And you insert your binder with your information and your listing presentation and all the good stuff that you're going to do. Then what they would do is they would actually steal those packages. They would take them and they go, oh, I don't want, I'm going to take all of them. I actually caught one agent literally with a armful of packages that were left on this person's door. Went and put their package down and took 12 or 13 other packages that were left for that PR at the property. Now, when I do it in a U.S. post office box, they have to question it because, it's U.S. mail, potentially, they think. And is it a federal crime to pick up that box and walk off with it? So they really have to think twice about it. And then what I never, ever, ever, ever do is never put, a company name or logo in the top left corner. I just never do it. I never say it's from them. And honestly, I would never put my name on it either, because a lot of the agents in the area knew who I was. And so I didn't want them looking at that, that's from Anthony. We're going to take that. So I would put something else, I would just, put, Department of Housing, right? And now you have to be careful too, because you got to figure out what your legal entities are in the area. And I actually found out that there was specifically a Department of Housing in our county, and somebody went to them and said, "Hey, what is this? I got this thing from the Department of Housing. You're the Department of Housing." Well, that's not from us. Okay. So I learned that. But be creative is the point. Okay. Be creative. So going back to out of area errors, and PRs. Okay. So what I do is I would send out, this letter, a lumpy package, envelope, whatever, to the PR, as well as out of area family. Okay. That's listed as far as errors goes. And what I would do is I would, in the letter, I would make an offer to them of services that I would do for free. Okay. Yes, for free. And one of those offers, of course, is the same, it's the same thing everybody does, is the property valuation, the CMA basically, right? And the way I would word it is I would say I would give you a no cost, no obligation property valuation report within 72 hours, or we pay you $500. Okay. And there's an asterisk to that. $500 will be paid at close of escrow if we fail to send the report within 72 hours via email delivery. Okay. So did you catch that? $500 will be paid at close of escrow. Well, whose close of escrow? Our close of escrow. I'm not paying them $500 if you don't hire me. Okay. And it's, we said, we understand how important it is to know the value of the property and to be able to estimate what proceeds are left over, right? So we would give them the property valuation, and then we would also do an estimated net sheet based on what we believed that the outstanding balances were. And we were clear that, this is an estimate, and, we have no way of knowing what other obligations there are in the estate. But if this is the case, then this should be what the proceeds would be, And so that was good. But we got to realize that there's a lot of other agents who are offering free CMAs, right, all day long. Okay. So we would also offer to them complimentary photograph and video service, even if you don't list with us. Okay. Why would we do this? Well, obviously the whole goal is to make the connection with that PR, that personal representative. Okay. That person is now on high guard. Their guard has shot way up, and they are trying to, because they're getting bombarded all of a sudden. They're an asset. They're not an asset, but they're kind of a commodity now, right? People want what they have, and they only got one, and there's a lot of people who want it, right? Now, so when we offer a photograph and video service, we would tell them, like I said, even if you don't list with us, it's okay. No obligation, no cost. As an executor or administrator of the estate, sometimes it's inconvenient to travel long distances in order to get an idea of what you're dealing with. So at no cost to you whatsoever, we will visit the property, take numerous photos, and even live video of the home and the surrounding area, right? So can you do a Facebook Live for that home? Yes. Careful. Don't be putting the address, the location up, obviously, because then now you're broadcasting that this home is vacant. Okay. But you're trying to do it so that you can communicate it to this person. If not, just record it, record the video, and then upload it to YouTube or as an unlisted file, or upload it to Facebook, and privately send it to them. Okay. So this way, and it continues, said this way you'll get a clear idea of what you're dealing with without having to travel. And little asterisk there says, as many photos and videos will be taken as we determine reasonable and based on accessibility of the property. Access to the property will be helpful. So now, do you think that PR is going, yeah, dude, I would love to see what the property's like. Okay. And, because I don't want to have to travel from 2 states away to come and see what the property's like and be surprised when I get there and find out it's a hoarder's house. My aunt or my dad or my whoever was a hoarder. No, they love to be able to get that information in advance. And remember, these are being sent immediately as soon as we get this list, which means their petition for probate was just filed, right? They haven't even been confirmed yet. If it's not a full authority, probate, but they haven't even been confirmed yet. And, that could take, at the earliest 30 days, more like 60. Okay. But if we get a head start, and guess what? If we can make that communication with them, we can start a conversation with them and build that rapport and that relationship with them. Do you think we have a better odds of selling the house, of getting the listing? Yeah, absolutely. So again, we're offering free property evaluation, and then we're offering, complimentary photograph and video service where we will go out there and we will photograph everything, and we tell them, that on average we'll take 120 photos. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, depending on the house and the condition, because we want to detail everything for them. And also, it's a good tool for them to have, because as a personal representative, as they are preparing to be confirmed, they have a responsibility. It's their responsibility to care for and maintain the house and the assets associated with that estate. It's their responsibility. So if the property's in a certain condition, and then later on, one of the other heirs comes along and says, they went and messed up the whole place just because they want to sell it for less so that, they screw us all out of our inheritance kind of thing, it's a family dispute, whatever. No, guess what? Now they have tons of photos going, look, I had a guy go out, they did this, that they took all these photos. Oh, by the way, here's video on this date showing that we weren't even confirmed yet. This is what it is, Oh, and then also at the same time, when they go out there and they spend, 4 weeks digging all the trash out of the house, fixing it up, painting it, putting new carpet, cleaning it up, if that's what they decide to do. They have documentation of that too. Okay, so everybody likes to think that they can go into a probate and not have people in their family challenge and accuse and threaten and things like that it's just, hey, we lost a loved one and now it's time to look. No, there's money on the line. You would be amazed, and we'll talk about that in some upcoming episodes, some of the stories of the outright war that took place in many, many cases, when somebody leaves their house in the form of a probate. Something else that we offer to these out of area heirs, and we offer this to everybody, access to our local third-party services. So, that includes, and again, it says, even if you don't list with us, we're doing that. We want to make sure, and we highlight and bullet point and bold that everything is, even if you don't list with us. And there's no cost for these services. There's no obligation whatsoever. Okay. And when and honestly, when they call and they say, hey, well, why are you doing this if there's no cost and there's no obligation? I go, look, I'm just being honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I would really love the listing. I would love that if we could make an arrangement that I could, help you out with the sale of that because it's what I do. And if this is what it takes for me to be able to offer these services to you, to be able to, establish a relationship and build trust and rapport with you, well, then that's what I'm going to do. And it doesn't always work out, but boy, I hope you'll give it to me, right? And by doing this, there's the issue of reciprocity. We talk about this all the time. You give somebody something just by human nature. Most people, not all of them, most people feel like they have to give you something in return. Okay. So when we give access to our local third-party services, we tell them we'll give them access to cleanup services, right? Like a maid service that we would use, the haul away service, people who will do inventory, handyman, estate sales specialist, consignment places, yard maintenance, charity and donations if they want to get rid of this stuff. Many more services depending on what they need. Right? And then we put on here, we said access to our list of third-party services is free, but the services themselves may not be. These are not services we're paying for. We're just giving them access to the services that we would use on an ongoing basis. Okay, to help them deal with their situation. And actually, and in some cases, what we had done was we made arrangements. So like we would have, say for example, the maid service, a handyman, and the yard maintenance guys. We would go to them and say, hey, look, we've got, properties that we list, and a lot of times they're managed by people. They can't put out hundreds and hundreds or thousands of dollars to take care of certain things. What is your normal fee to come clean a house, for example? Well, if it's this square footage, it's whatever, $350. I tell you what we'll do. We'll make an arrangement. If you guys can wait for the sale of the house, and it might take a while, if you can wait for the sale of the house, we'll make an arrangement that at close of escrow, you'll get paid, $500 or $600. Okay, so basically, they're doing the work for free in advance so that they can make more money later. And the PRs usually don't have a problem with this. And we're very upfront about it. We go, look, you can pay them $350 today. They'll come and make this place spotless. And it'll sparkle. Or when escrow closes, you will have to, pay them through escrow $600. Okay. And most of the PRs perfectly happy with it because it wasn't money out of their pocket, so they kind of weren't taking the risk, and also made sure that they were aware that they had to pay that regardless of whether or not there was whether it was listed with us as well. So that's kind of what that was. So dealing with out of area heirs is really, it's, in my opinion, it's more of a low-hanging fruit when we're trying to get that initial business, because so many people are bombarding them with, let us list your house, or if they're an investor, let us buy your house for half price, right? Because that's kind of what it is. They're getting bombarded with that, but nobody's really offering a whole lot of value as to, well, why should I pick you? Well, we're number one in the neighborhood and we sell the most homes and blah, 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 and all this. Okay, great. But what are you going to do for me? Well, we're going to, and we answer that question. We're going to do a property valuation, and we're going to do complimentary photos and videos, and we're going to give you access to our third-party services and manage those arrangements if you need us to. And we're going to do those all for free, right? But here's one thing that you have to do. Whatever the services that you're offering, and it doesn't matter if it's to out-of-area heirs or if it's to local heirs, you have to attach a value to every single thing that you do. So if I'm doing this special offer, and I say no obligation property valuation report within 72 hours, or we pay you $500, this is worth $397. Okay, where'd I come up with that number? I don't know. I just made it up. right? But there's value in that, right? How much time does it take to do a property valuation? These days it's pretty quick and simple, but if we actually dive into it and we don't just rely on the report that we clicked on and it spit out an estimate, if we actually go in and do real comparables and things like that, what's your dollar per hour value? For me to do one of those, it's about a $400 value. Okay. Complimentary photograph and video service. Call a photographer and say, hey, how much would you charge just for documentation purposes? Not for marketing, because these are not marketing photos. And I don't think you don't necessarily want to do marketing photos unless you walk into the house and the house is pristine right out of the gates. I mean, ready to sell tomorrow. Okay. But you don't want to do marketing photos, because what you want them to do is these are all documentation photos of the condition of the property and overall look and feel and everything, so that, they have them on file, but you don't want them to take those and turn around and, list it as a for sale by owner using your photos, or listed at, like I had somebody try to do. They took my photos and they gave it to another agent, because the agent that was referred to them by their attorney was actually from, 30, 40 miles away and didn't want to drive to the property to take photos. So they gave him my photos. We stopped that. But, but there's value to it, right? So call a photographer. How much would you charge to go out and do a photo shoot and video an entire property just for documentation purposes in detail? Okay. And they're going to charge you, $500 to $1,000 to go out and do that. I'm sure you can find somebody to do it for $100, but don't have somebody else go out and do it. You go out and do it. Why? Because every time that I went out and did that, not every time, let's say, probably 60, 70% of the time that I went out and did it for out of area heirs, there was somebody there from the family. If I sent a photographer, who I paid $100 to go do this, like, hi, I'm just here to take the photos. Okay, here you go. They turn the key, they open the door, let them in, let them roam around the house for a half an hour, But no, when I'm there, I'm like, yeah, hey, I'm here. I'm going to take the photos. I'm going to do it myself. I bring a professional, camera. When I say professional, I mean, consumer grade, SLR camera. I prefer. You can do it with your phone, but if that's the case, then why couldn't they do it with their phone? They could do it, right? So I bring a camera. I go, I am here. I'm taking time out of my day to be here. This is a $700 value. And so I'm doing this. Oh, wow. A family member's here. Okay, great. They let me in. Guess what I get to do? Now I get to talk to them. I get to sell them, and I get to build the relationship, build rapport. Okay. Access to third-party services. This is call it a $197 value. Management of the third party services, call that another $497 value, right? You have to create value, and you have to tell them what the value is. If you don't tell them what the value is, well, then they just think, it's free. Yeah, everybody does that. You put a dollar amount to it, and they go, yeah, you're right. If I paid a photographer to go out there, if I called up a photographer right now in that area and said, hey, I've got a house, go take a photo. Yeah, they definitely charge me $500 to $1,000. But these guys are going to do it for free. Oh man, I got to take them up on that. So, anyways, that's kind of that was one of the things that I did as when I'm working with out of area personal representatives and heirs, take advantage of this. Take advantage of this and offer them services. Think of other offers. What else can you offer? What else can you make available to them that would get them excited? That would make them go, you know what? Yeah, I got to call this person. right? If you have to, do a postcard so they see it. If they're not responding, in your campaigns that you come up with, you should be hitting these people hard, for the first 30 days. Really hard, because that's when they're going to make the decision. They're going to put your card on the countertop, throw everybody else's junk away, and have your card sitting there so that once they get the word that they have confirmation, that they're ready to go. But guess what? This also applies to people who are in trusts, whose family members' homes are in trusts. They want someone to do all this stuff for them too. And guess what? They're still out of the area. Anyway, we'll be talking more about this in upcoming episodes and some other additional, marketing techniques. Next episode we're going to talk about is, where are you coming from? Are you coming from a place of taking, or are you coming from a place of giving? And it makes a big, big difference. We'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe right here where you're listening to us right now, and any of your other social media platforms. And leave feedback for me. It's really important to me, and it helps us out. Do you have a question that you want answered live on the show? Go to theprobateagent.com to submit your question, or even to get an opportunity to be interviewed. For my agent friends, you'll also find additional content and some freebies there that you can download right now. Until next time, let's put the pro back into probate.